So I guess we can get started on that. So again, welcome. Alan Schimmel here, Editor-in-Chief, DevOps.com, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Our presenters today are Naman Agarwal, founder and CEO of 3QI Labs, Tanay Nagji, software engineer at Electric Cloud, and I'm Sam Fell. I'm not sure if Sam is actually joining us today, as I think he had an engagement that called him away from the office. Tanay and Naman, if I messed up your names, I do apologize. We try the best we can. But before I hand things over to Naman to get started, I did want to do our polling questions, because that does kind of help our presenters understand who and what is kind of in our audience in terms of experience and where you are. So our first question is, how many applications have you worked on? And if you can just give us an answer, none, 1, 2 to 5, more than 5. And shouldn't take long to answer that one, and we'll put off voting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we can see the answers right away. So it looks like we have a pretty experienced audience, with over 2/3 of you having done 5 or more applications, or more than 5 applications. That's excellent. Let's follow that up with our second polling question, which is, what percentage of your testing is automated? And I think we'll see a different answer here, but if you can quickly give us an answer, we'll give it a few seconds, just maybe 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And survey says, little Richard Dawson, there's a pretty interesting mix here. So 38% was the largest, and that was in 20 to 50%, and 0 to 20% is 27%. And you know, almost 1/4 of you have more than half of your testing automated, which is excellent. 12% none. So interesting answers there. If we can go back to our presenter now. So Naman and Tanay, with that as background, let me hand things over to you, Naman, and we can move forward from there.
Great. Thanks, Alan, and thank you everyone for joining. A brief agenda of what we're going to cover. We got about 60 minutes and a lot to cover. So, we're going to start with an introduction of who we are and why we're doing what we do. Give you an overview of the Autotest platforms, the technologies we support, and types of testing we support. Followed by a video demo of Autotest for mobile and responsive testing. From there, Tanay will give you a deep dive into the Electric Flow platform, after which we'll do another video demo of the Electric Flow Autotest integration, and hopefully have 10 to 15 minutes of time for question and answers. So let's get started. Bugs are expensive, right? I think just given the poll results, everyone realizes that, has probably experienced that firsthand. But a week doesn't go by without a software glitch, bug, hack, or issue, or something making the news, which in best case leads to an embarrassing situation. But typically, financial loss to the tune of tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, and security breaches, and in cases, death and destruction, right? But the unfortunate reality is bugs have been around since software has been around, and they will continue to be a thorn in the side of software development teams. Everybody, really, engineers, testers, product, DevOps, business, for as long as we have software. And the other unfortunate reality is that it's only going to get more intense for a variety of reasons, right? One is you've got more to test today. Software velocity is going up. In fact, there was an article yesterday which talked about the amount of code that being written is coming down, but the amount of feature functionality that needs to be tested is increasing. And that's primarily driven by open source software, APIs, and the like. So there's more to test. The release frequency is going up. all right, as you all know, with Agile. There's more releases in extreme cases like the Netflixes and Amazons of the world doing it multiple times a day. And even in the enterprise where we typically operate, we're seeing, a dramatic increase from a couple of times a year to, as in some cases, once every couple of weeks for enterprise applications. The cost of defects is going up, right? It's there's a statistic that talked about an 80% drop-off rate if customers had a bad first experience with your mobile applications. So quality is becoming that much more important. And last but not the least, the number of supported platforms is exploding. Right? On last check, I think there was 25,000 Android devices in circulations, multiple SDKs, multiple devices, multiple form factors, browsers, Edge, Chrome releasing something every month. All that needs to be tested, and all of that is really increasing the stress on the quality function, right? There's, and testing tends to be the long pole in the SDLC, right? And even more so in the enterprise. And this is something that gets more pronounced in a DevOps world, right? DevOps spans the entire SDLC, all right? And it's a dramatic improvement over how things were done in, a waterfall world. You've got the agile aspect of DevOps, which is focused on, building product in small chunks in rapid cycles or sprints. You've got continuous integration, which is taking that code, verifying it, which is where testing comes in, and pushing it to environments or builds in a continual manner. And then you've got delivery, right, which is essentially releasing that product or feature or code in a continuous fashion. And DevOps is nothing but the combination of these various processes along with supporting technologies like the ones we're showcasing today. But as I mentioned earlier, testing tends to be the long pole in this process. And in a perfect world, testing would be continuous, but as most of us have seen, that is not the case. And in a lot of cases, you need that extra time to test to ensure that you're covering all your bases and pushing out quality product. But we also know that in order to achieve that quote-unquote DevOps nirvana, testing or automated testing is one way to the issues you face with the testing function in DevOps, right? The benefits of automated testing are pretty clear. We won't spend a whole lot of time on that, but it is continuous. If built correctly and deployed correctly, you can run your automated tests with every code change. It does lead to early detection. If built correctly, you should be using testing or automated testing right from the get-go, right from your from the dev side of the equation. It gives you consistent results, eliminates the human error aspect of things, and then the reusability, time savings, and cost savings, all of which go hand in hand. There is an investment in automation that's made. You have to build your automated tests, but once they're built, and if built correctly, you can use them across releases, across environments, across platforms, all of which leads to time savings and cost savings. And really, the goal of automation, if done correctly, is start at the start and continue through the SDLC, right? It's, some people call it shift left, some people call it test-driven development, but really, it's all the same. And this is where we come in, right? Our whole goal as 3QI Labs is to focus on helping teams adopt test automation, but not just adopt it effectively, right? Automation or test automation is not a new concept. It's been around for over 3 decades, but the need for it has never been greater than it is today, right? And that's been the biggest driver for us to develop the Autotest platform to manage and execute your automated tests using a variety of open source technologies, and we'll be going over that in the demo shortly. Right. So how do we help with the effective adoption of automation, right? One is by supporting various types of tests, right? We support responsive testing or breakpoint testing for responsive applications. Mobile testing for mobile apps, mobile browsers across major platforms, on devices, on emulators. API testing, this has been an increased area of focus for us simply because it's been an increased area of focus for our customers, right? And as we were mentioning earlier, a lot of APIs being pushed out, and you don't only need to test your own APIs, but also third-party APIs that you're consuming. And we found defects for our customers in APIs that they were consuming. And last but not the least, browser testing. That is still 50% of all internet consumption is happening through the browser, and that continues to be a big area of focus for us. And our goal over time is to essentially increase or expand the types of testing we support. In 2016, early part of 2016, IoT is going to be a big area of focus for us. So that's one way we help with automation adoption. The other way is by really making open source automation enterprise ready, right? And this has been something we focused on right from the onset, right from the time we started, wherein we don't want to limit ourselves or our customers by a specific technology, right? Selenium is great for browser testing, right? Appium is great for mobile application and mobile browser testing. At the same time, we incorporate tools like Sikuli for image-based testing or GUI testing. A recent framework we've adopted is the Gallon framework for responsive design testing. So, we're continually expanding the tools we leverage, the open source technologies we leverage to expand the coverage and address specific customer situations, right? And we do this while making sure we're providing comprehensive coverage for all the major platforms, right? iOS 9 comes up, yes, we got coverage, because really, Appium has coverage for that. At the same time, we're also expanding our footprint by integrating with other third-party tools that are very deeply rooted inside the enterprise, right? HP ALM is one such platform that pretty much all our large customers use and use very effectively. So one of the things we've actively done is integrate with various HP modules and expand our footprint at the same time in the cloud. We recently also released Autotest on the Amazon marketplace. Right. And we do all of this in a very flexible manner. So, for the larger customers, we deploy Autotest on-premise. You can deploy it on the cloud. You can use it on autotest.com. Autotest essentially becomes a repository for all your automation assets, libraries, and frameworks, and then gives you an interface to essentially execute your automation across physical and virtual infrastructure, which is something else Autotest gives you the capability to manage, right? And it does all of that with detailed, actionable reporting. So, and you'll see that in a moment as part of the video demo, where you got rolled up data on defect rates, defect densities, down to individual, click streams for specific interactions that were tested, with screenshots and full video playback. All right. I'm going to do a quick case study over here. This was for one of our customers who was deploying a mobile wallet solution. This is a large financial services organization. Their process was quasi-agile, distributed teams on-site, offshore, with multiple handoffs between internal, external partners and vendors. Their testing requirement was really to get this wallet application certified on 20-plus platforms with 400 functional scenarios and over 1,000 API scenarios that need to be tested with each build. Typical manual testing cycle for this team was 1 man-week for end-to-end manual testing per device SDK combination. So 20 man-weeks if they had to actually test everything they really wanted to test, right? What we did was build a TDD framework using Cucumber and Ruby, so we were able to build the automation in advance of the actual code being written. Build a data-driven framework, again using Excel and Ruby, and use libraries like Appium, Calabash, Water WebDriver, and curl to build out these scenarios. We also used our device lab, which is nothing but a container filled with different phones and tablets that we rolled on premise for the customer, and then built out over 1,000 REST and SOAP scenarios that we automated that were being run almost 3 to 4 times a week, because that was the number of builds they were doing. So it's just a quick snapshot of the technologies we used. And the results, right? So we were able to automate over 75% of the functional tests, right? We were able to automate 100% of the API web services tests that they needed covered. Over the last 5 releases, there's been 0 P0 or P1 defects. And automation, like I mentioned, was started in advance of the dev release, right? And most importantly, the automation was built in a way that it could be reused right from your dev builds to your UAT builds to pre-prod and even production checkout testing using the automation we built. And really what we saw in the process was a 20x increase in coverage, because what they were getting on a weekly basis was one SDK device combination tested. We were able to do that in parallel across 20 devices and doing that multiple times a week. Quick snapshot of the Autotest architecture. So Autotest is a Rails application that can, like I said, deployed on-prem or in the cloud, and it's got remote agents called shamans that are that actually do the execution, send the results back to Autotest, and give you the detailed reporting. Now we're going to jump into a quick demo of the Autotest platform. This is a video demo. I'm just going to pull that up. So this is Autotest. It's a Rails application. This one's deployed on Amazon, and today we're going to be demoing the Coles.com mobile app and web apps across on being tested on mobile devices. What you see is the Autotest MWeb module for mobile browser testing. This is a snapshot or dashboard of your testing or automation activity that's been executed, and we go into the test cases section where your actual tests are managed. For MWeb specifically, we support Appium, Ruby, Cucumber automation. We got all your test cases over here. Autotest also ships with a bunch of predefined libraries, and for the purposes of this demo, we've created some custom libraries and frameworks to help scale the automation. So once your tests are in Autotest, right, and your libraries are in there, your predefined steps and custom steps, you can log into the Autotest job section and kick off a job. Here is where you select what tests you want to execute. You select the environment you want to execute on, the types of devices, SDKs, or platforms you want to run your tests on. You can run them in parallel, you can run them sequentially, you could schedule it. There's a lot of nifty options. You could take screenshots, you could take video playback of tests running on devices, and get notifications upon completion or upon failure of a given test. Make your selections and hit run. Once you hit run, and we'll pan out to the actual devices running the test, the tests are sent to the agent and then executed on the device or on the emulator depending on what you specified in your job. So there you've got it running on Coles.com on a product page and for a checkout flow onto Android devices in parallel. Right? This infrastructure is shared across all Autotest modules. Once your test is run, you go into reports. Here you see you get defect rates, defect densities that can be sliced and diced by category and tests. And then you click in and get detailed click-through data on the specific test you ran. This is an earlier test. We also, like I was mentioning, integrate with HP ALM. So anything that fails or any validation that fails can be logged directly into ALM, directly from the Autotest screen by simply clicking the bug icon. And we've got our own API that allows you to integrate with other defect tracking tools. With ALM specifically, we also integrate with ALM's test plan, test lab modules, and you can get more details on that on our YouTube channel or on our website. So the reporting also gives you traceability back into the scripts and gives you functionality to communicate with other team members to essentially make the reporting more actionable. You can export it to PDF, export it to XLS. You can share the reports, integrate them with ALM, and get full video playback of exactly what was tested. So this is one thing we focus a lot of energy on, is making the reporting on the automation very, very actionable. Right. Next thing is the Autotest assets section. So here's where you manage your custom libraries, your data-driven frameworks, your various environments, and even test variables that you can use, key value pairs that you can use as part of your automation. We're going to jump over to the MApp module, which is the native app or hybrid app testing module for iOS and Android. Again, over here, some of the libraries we use are Appium, Calabash, and we used to do Frank as well. We can use Seculi for this. One of the differences between MApp and MWeb is the fact that you can upload your app or APK file, your native app file, directly into Autotest. So it gives you the option to run specific tests on specific versions of your app on specific devices of your choosing, right? So you have all of those options when you're creating your job. Select the test, select the version of the application you want to run. In this case, we'll just do Coles 1.0, which is what's available on the Android App Store. Select the same infrastructure that we ran for the MWeb test and run it. And there you go. Launch the native app, it will install the app, launch the app, run through the test. And this is functionality that Appium gives you out of the box. Right? That was MApp. Web, exactly the same thing, same look and feel, same consistency of usage throughout the Autotest platform. The difference is the libraries that we support for browser testing, which is what the web module does. We've got Selenium, Ruby, Cucumber, Water WebDriver, JUnit, and our own DSL Autotest as well. Same thing here, select the test you want to run, select the OS browser combinations you want to run on, and all the other options. The agent's running on this same machine, so it will launch the browser on this machine, simply run through the test, and give you detailed reporting like it does for the other platforms or for the other modules. Right, and everything is exactly the same down to video playback. So you also have the option to flag specific validations for performance testing as well. Now we're going to do responsive breakpoint testing with the Gallon framework. Autotest supports Gallon, which is an open source framework specifically for responsive testing. It allows you to define layout and design rules across various breakpoints. Over here you'll see we've defined 3 breakpoints, 450 pixels, 850 pixels, and 1024 pixels. Now we jump in from here into our spec file where we define the rules that we're going to test. Some of the rules we're going to run on the Microsoft.com website are image width and dimensions at different breakpoints, pixel distance between any 2 elements, alignment of logo with menu, and simple text validations. All of this is defined in the test file, uploaded to Autotest, and again, go in and execute the test you want to run on the browsers you want to run it on. In this case, it will launch 3 instances of the Chrome browser, tests run through all your design rules on the Microsoft.com site. And then one of the amazing things about Gallon is it gives you very detailed reporting with screenshots and highlights of what failed. So over here you'll see a failure between where the Windows icon and the menu icon weren't aligned in this particular breakpoint. So that was a quick overview of Autotest for mobile and responsive testing. We've conducted millions of tests using Autotest for a variety of different applications and platforms. And I know it was a lot to cover in the last 7 minutes, but now I'm going to turn it over to Tane to walk us through the Electric Cloud platform.
Very good. Danae?
Thanks, Naman. Yep, so assuming you guys can see my screen. So yeah, my name's Tane Nagji. I work with Electric Cloud on the solutions engineering team, and I'll walk a little bit through, a little bit of background about Electric Cloud, Electric Flow in particular, the product we're going to be showing a demo of an integration with Autotest, a little bit about what we do, and go from there. So Electric Cloud, we are kind of our general view is that we help the world deliver better software faster. We've been around for over 12 years. We've got employees all over the world, customers all over the world as well. And we have really the only unified end-to-end DevOps automation platform in the market that takes you from commit all the way through to production. So our view is that every business is a software business. So it doesn't really matter these days what you might be doing. Software is an integral part of every business. DevOps and continuous delivery are the new Agile. And as you try to achieve DevOps and achieve continuous delivery, automation and acceleration of your software delivery processes is a critical critical aspect. So, a little bit about our customers over here. You can see that, again, like we said, every business is a software business, and so we have customers across all different types of industries, segment leaders within those industries, everything from networking and mobile to financial services and healthcare, aerospace and defense, and several other systems as well. So this is DevOps is kind of a nebulous term sometimes to a lot of people. Everyone that I speak to has a slightly different view of it, but everyone kind of agrees on the fact that really it's it's the empowering of both the dev and the operations sectors to work together and to be able to kind of marry the applications and the infrastructure. And so this diagram just kind of shows you, a left to right from the development of an application all the way through to the operation of that application in production. And from top to bottom, you have your applications and infrastructure, which, historically has been somewhat separated. Electric Cloud's goal is to help marry both of those organizations by accelerating the software delivery and increasing quality by getting more cycles, shifting left, as Naman said earlier, getting early and actionable feedback so developers and testers can get their feedback as soon as possible. And then on the operations, on the infrastructure side, being able to define your infrastructure as code, self-service provisioning so that you empower developers to dynamically provision environments or a QA to dynamically provision environments for their specific purposes, and then having a standardized environment from dev all the way through to production. Kind of a high-level view of our products. We essentially have two products. We have Electric Accelerator, which is a tool that really massively parallelizes your builds and even unit tests and other pieces by distributing them across a cluster with dependency awareness. And then we have Electric Flow, which is what we're going to be showing today as part of the video that Naman will show you later in integration with Autotest, which is really all about automation. So again, end-to-end, the build, the test, the deploy cycle, being able to create your workflows, define your resources, manage your artifacts in a very enterprise scalable way. Electric Flow provides that with this underlying DevOps automation platform that we've built over the last decade or so that scales and provides functionality for really every facet of the software delivery lifecycle. And sitting on top of the applications for each sector, you also have a end-to-end pipeline management and visibility. The combination of acceleration and automation enables continuous delivery and enables you to achieve DevOps by greatly reducing your cycle times, increasing the accuracy of the cycles that do run. And we're not really we're an orchestration platform that's going to be orchestrating the tools that are purpose-built for the different parts of your software delivery lifecycle. So you might have, of course, SCM tools for your source code management, test automation tools like Attest, build tools, deployment tools, application servers, databases. It's all of, we integrate with hundreds of different third-party applications out of the box, and that's what enables you to kind of create your pipelines and your workflows to manage that end-to-end life cycle. The key use cases for Electric Cloud, of course, I've mentioned these already: cycle time reduction, accelerating and automate, automate all the things. You guys might have seen that meme or heard that kind of mantra, and we really live and breathe by that. Automation is in of itself a huge win. Getting rid of any kind of manual task or manual operation greatly increases quality and speed, and therefore time to market. And reducing the cycle times, really gives you a lot more velocity. The delivery of your software being orchestrated from end to end, and as part of doing that, getting visibility, traceability, and being able to satisfy compliance audits and so on, because everything is kind of coded into or orchestrated by a single pane of glass, is very powerful. So a couple of use cases for people that we've worked with. GM is a great example on the cycle time reduction side. 20x acceleration of their development cycles, thousands of build artifacts being created per week, whereas in the past it was far less. Panasonic, achieved an 84% cycle time reduction, and they completely hosted their development environment within the control of their orchestration platform, so that developers weren't using it worked in development, but it didn't work later on because of little differences between environments here and there. If you have consistency of every environment from the very left of your software delivery lifecycle through to production, you greatly decrease the number of errors that you find in production, and you also greatly, kind of increase the uncovering of bugs early on in the cycle. And Ericsson achieved a return on their investment in less than 3 months. They cut 1 month from their product delivery date, and from then have consistently achieved better and better software delivery times. On the software delivery, orchestration use case, this is about pipeline automation, integrating with your entire SDLC toolchain. GE is, $650,000 worth of productivity hours were saved in a year. These are real measurable things that you can get when you start to see the acceleration automation of your cycles. Huawei, with a centralized delivery service that supports 7+ China R&D sites, provided a lot of automation and acceleration to their various developers. And Qualcomm, they're servicing 2,000 nodes, 1,500 engineers, and have their Android delivery service running through the Electric Flow platform. Finally, we have a couple of examples over here of befores and afters. Huawei was, their cycle times were about, you can see over here, 10 minutes up to 300 minutes in the different facets. Once they automated and accelerated everything, those were brought down by a great degree. Similarly, the Gap, big retail organization out of San Francisco, 20 minutes, 150 minutes, 300 minutes for the different segments of their life cycle, and we're able to bring that down pretty significantly, especially when you look at that final column. What is your feature delivery time? 30 days to 7 days, 15 days to 1 day. That's huge. This is kind of a somewhat complex but very, very common type of life cycle. And really what we're talking about here is the concepts of CD and DevOps. They accelerate development, they accelerate tests, they enable compliance audits, and they provide a lot of consistency. And this is exactly the kind of glue layer in which Electric Flow fits. So last thing I'll say, we're the underwriter for the DevOps Enterprise Summit. We're having one later this month in San Francisco. Last year we had sold out attendance with standing room only, sold out sponsorships, and a lot of great feedback. So for those of you who are interested, check out devopsenterprise.io, and please do join us there. So with that, I will hand it over to Naman for the electric flow Attest demo.
Fantastic. Before we hand it over to Naman, just a quick reminder for our audience. We do have the question section of the interface, and if anything that the speakers have said have geared or sparked a question, please put it into the question section now so that we can get to it at the conclusion of the demo. We have set aside time for it. So thanks very much, and Naman, why don't you take over with the demo now?
Perfect. So in this walkthrough, we'll demo the electric flow and Attest integration. Attest will be responsible for executing and reporting the results of the automated tasks, and we'll be using electric flow for orchestrating the build and deploy process. The application we're testing is up on your screen. That's a fat-free CRM application, an open source Rails app that I on Heroku. Here we are in the electric flow pipeline where we can see a fail in a previous build that stopped the Attest run. You click on that, you log in, you see the Attest report. There's full traceability back to the detailed Attest report where you see what failed. Here it was expecting a link called create lead. And you also have the screenshot at that point of failure where it says, where you can see it actually says create news lead. So that was a bug that we introduced into the system. Now we'll go into fat-free CRM. You can see the create news lead, the bug that's on there. And we'll go in and fix this quickly. We'll jump in, make the change, and then push it to our GitHub repo, right? Which is continually being monitored by the electric flow platform. So the moment this code's checked in, electric flow will initiate a build. Now on the continuous integration dashboard, we'll see a new build process has started. Electric flow can orchestrate the end-to-end flow. So once the job is completed successfully, it will initiate the next step in the process until the cycle reaches completion. We click view workflow to see the view of the process. Here we're seeing it's currently deploying the application to Heroku, and we view the logs to see the status as running, so the application is still getting built. Now we see the Heroku build step is successfully completed. You'll see on the electric flow pipeline, the happy path test will automatically get kicked off. Electric flow uses the Attest APIs to essentially initiate the new job, and it has a status here with a link to the Attest report for that particular job. You'll see the same job ID on the Attest page. You click the happy path, and you get full traceability from electric flow to Attest. And the way it works is once your happy path's completed, if everything passes, then it'll kick off your critical path, and then your regression, and so on. As you can see, it's a completely automated process from the second we push the changes to GitHub, right, or any other source control for that matter. Now that the tests have completed, as part of this process design, we've added a final manual step where the user has to manually approve a build before it gets pushed into production, right? As you can see now, we have a finished build. We can see the detailed Attest reports that were executed and click back and forth between the electric flow platform and the Attest reports. And as you can see, Electric Cloud's ability to orchestrate complex workflows across varying technologies and platforms, coupled with Attest test automation management and report capabilities, provides a very powerful integrated solution to manage your DevOps processes. All right, I'm going to jump back into the hang on, I'm having some technical issues here. Jump back into the presentation, last couple of slides. Excuse me. So just to summarize, right, the Autotest electric flow integration essentially helps automate the build, test, deploy process. What you see up on your screen is the manual process for, putting in code, conducting a build, doing some testing. If that succeeds, pushing it to a higher environment. Autotest specifically addresses the testing aspect of this, right? You can automate the various types of tests you want to run once a build is complete. And with the electric flow integration, it essentially automates the entire process from the time code is being checked in, right? Which brings you one step closer to, quote unquote, continuous testing, right? And it gives you an easy way to customize your test coverage and execution cycles, depending on what you want to test, where you want to test, when you want to test. With built-in test infrastructure management that Autotest provides and can be controlled, either directly from electric flow or through the Autotest platform. The other cool thing, like Anna had mentioned, is really it's technology agnostic, right? So you could use your preferred technology for continuous integration, for automated build and deploy, for testing, and defect tracking, and so on, and bring those all together, right, in one seamless, unified platform with end-to-end traceability and reporting. So really, it's an enterprise-ready platform to manage your automated build, test, and deploy processes. So that's the end of our rapid presentation and video demos. I guess Alan will jump into question and answers now.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got a few questions here. Let me start with Tim Rosner asked his early on, and so we'll get right to it. Tim asks, when you mention 20x coverage, do you mean code coverage?
No, so the 20x coverage is really in terms of going from manual to automated, right? So when you were doing manual, we were doing we were covering one platform or one device SDK combination, right, for a given build, and that was the level of certification that was being done before pushing it to the next environment, and what we were able to do is really increase that. So run 20 times the number of tests across different devices or different SDK device combinations, right, in a fraction of the time it was taking to run that one cycle.
Excellent. Okay, our next question is, which KPIs should be used to track automated testing if it's successful or not?
Great question, right? So it really comes down to, you could use, going back to Tim's question, right, you could use code coverage as one KPI. The other one is especially if you're moving from a manual or predominantly manual testing process to automation, right? What percentage of those tests are you getting covered with each build, right? Typically what we see in the enterprise is you're having a couple of builds, especially on the dev side, you're having 2, 3, 4 builds a week, right? And the amount of testing on those builds is relatively limited. It's a basic smoke test that tests, the core functionality, and once that's, or specifically areas that were changed or modified or built, and then pushes that to the next environment. So I guess in a nutshell, code coverage, test case, manual test cases that have been automated, so just general test coverage that you're getting, and then the amount of execution, right? The sheer volume of testing that that you're doing with each ensuing build.
Okay, excellent. Next question. What defects can the automated testing not detect?
Great question. So really, for the testing that we do, right, our testing falls into a few different categories, like I mentioned. You can do design rules, right, used for responsive testing. So you get that coverage. You get functional coverage for anything you see in the screen, API scenarios, and we also, because we use Ruby under the covers, we can do some back-end testing for DB validations and things like that. What we don't particularly focus on is performance and load testing. So that is something that there is, you can build automated testing to address load and performance testing, but that's an area we're not working on.
Great. Let me just, another question that come in via email, actually. I have worked on test automation, but am more interested in how it works for mobile native apps and for responsive design apps. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's the hot topic these days, right? It's responsive and mobile. Like we demoed, there is the Gallon framework. It's open source. It's very powerful. You set your breakpoint, you set your design rules for each breakpoint, and you can run this, literally hundreds, if not thousands, of scenarios in a matter of minutes, right? So that's one great way to a great framework or library for responsive testing. For native apps, we were a big Calabash shop until they got acquired by Xamarin. And after that, we focused our energies on Appium, which is an amazing library. I think that's sort of the de facto standard for native and hybrid iOS and Android applications.
Okay. Here's another couple other questions we had. What are some of the challenges faced with responsive testing?
Sure. So, responsive testing, one of the biggest challenge I would say is what are you testing, right? It's today when the requirements are put together, there is stuff that is found as part of your responsive testing, which hasn't really been defined. On a certain breakpoint, your submit button just shifts to the top right, right? So those design rules, are never completely comprehensive. And one of the big things you have to do when you're testing responsive apps is do pure exploratory testing. I think as you find more defects in your responsive apps, specifically for breakpoint testing, as long as you're documenting those scenarios, so those are being tested in future releases, and ideally automating using a framework like Gallon, that's the key to successfully growing your responsive testbed.
Excellent. We're getting more questions here. Are the browsers and OSs for web hosted in your infrastructure or third party? Do you have your own Selenium and Appium grid?
Sure. So we have a slightly different infrastructure. We can do Selenium, we can use Selenium Grid as well, but we have our agents that we can deploy on our infrastructure. You could deploy it on AWS or Azure, and typically for larger enterprise customers, we deploy it on their infrastructure. And this can be done on physical or virtual machines. So that's one of the beauties of the way we've architected Autotest is it's really, it's configurable to fit a variety of different needs. You could come to autotest.com and run your tests over there through our infrastructure, which is a cheap way of doing it. The best way, or a very cost-effective way of doing it, is just launching your own Autotest server in Amazon or Azure and running your tests on that infrastructure, which is part of your AWS account, so you pay for what you use. Or the third, which is sort of the large enterprise use case, is come and do it on-prem for our infrastructure, and that's what we've done a lot of as well.
I see. Tanay, I would just want to mention that if you have anything to add on these questions, Naman is obviously doing a great job answering them, but if there's any further comment, please don't hesitate to jump in with anything.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to hog the mic, but sorry.
No, it's not. You did a great job, but I like to keep it fair and balanced, as we say
Absolutely,
in the
absolutely.
media game. Our next question: does AWE test associate test cases with a given build, or can it also be tuned to be associated with the subset of functions that have changed within a build?
So today we don't have complete integration with source control systems like GitHub and SVN. That is something we will be releasing in November. So therein you can actually check in your tasks directly into your source control system, and Autotest will check them out for a given branch and run them. So you'll have complete traceability on that front. What you can do in Autotest today is version your test. So for a given build, you can create a version, and then run tests for a given Autotest version, which essentially corresponds to a given build in your system. So that's one. In terms of specific functions within a given build, again, you can define that directly in your automation scripts. Right, so we allow you to, we support open source technologies like Ruby and Cucumber, so you can define scenarios in there that are specific to a given build and just run those scenarios, but we're not providing that functionality out of the box.
Excellent.
Naman, if I can jump in. So from an SCM and build perspective, that kind of really falls also squarely within the kind of the capabilities of electric flow or a CI type system where you can tie together kind of what Naman showed from the demo. You can tie together a certain checkout with the build and the test results and so on, and so you can really provide that traceability all the way back through to essentially, if there is a way to provide a mapping, we often have a question about, can you provide a mapping between portions of the code and the tests that need to run when those portions are changed? And that's typically a rather easy thing for developers to provide. So, these are the unit tests that, if I kind of map out even the directory structure within my source tree, when this source area changes, and for my smoke test builds or my CI builds, run this set of tests. That mapping is usually pretty easy for a few software architects to put together. And then once you encode that in an automation system like Electric Flow, you can then just have the very basic test kick off as part of your smoke CI build, and then have the larger cycles run, on a nightly basis or for production.
And just one more thing to add to that. We have so just to add on to that, we have the ability to set templates, and we have a fully functional API that we've exposed, which is what we use for the electric flow integration. So to Tane's point, we can set templates that correspond to a given build or a given feature or a given functionality, and that can be called directly through the API and executed on your infrastructure.
Okay. Guys, I don't see any other, well, we do have more questions. I'm sorry. Oh, well, this session is being recorded, and it will be posted on our website along with the slides, and it usually takes us 24 to 48 hours. You'll find it on DevOps.com. Also, I wanted to mention, Tane had spoken about the DevOps Enterprise Summit, which Electric Cloud helps put on along with Gene Kim's IT Revolution. It's probably one of the premier DevOps, quickly in 1 year has become one of the premier DevOps events in the world. DevOps.com is also a media sponsor of DOES, as we call it, DOES. I'll be posting tomorrow. I was recently on a Google Hangout with some leading thought leaders in DevOps, including Gene Kim and Electric Cloud CEO. And I'll be writing up my thoughts on that tomorrow at DOES. If any of you are coming, and I do think there are still tickets available. It's October 19th to the 22nd at the Embarcadero Hyatt in San Francisco. We are going to be live there with a video crew taping interviews with just about every speaker from the event, as well as random people in the audience. So, and we'll of course have that up on DevOps.com after the event. But it is shaping up to be a must attend event, or at least a must follow event if you can't get out to San Francisco in person. So that's a DevOps Enterprise Summit, October 19th to the 22nd. Hope to see you there. If not, you can follow it along on devops.com. With that, I think we're about ready to wrap this up. Naman, Tane, thank you so much for a very, very informative webinar today. I hope our audience found it as interesting as I did. And until next time, this is Schimmel for devops.com. Have a great day, and we'll see you again on our next webinar. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.